This is the first day of the April 94 7-day retreat in Springwater. During the first talk, we always talk about listening. What is listening? Our conventional idea and ways of listening, and an open, meditative listening, if you will. Then we talk about authority. Is there authority invested? By me in this talk? Is there authority invested in my relationship with you? And are you investing authority in me? Not to answer it yes or no, but we'll talk about it and look as we're talking, because this is one of the essences of a talk. Is not just to listen to words, but to be open to what the words refer to and be aware of it in a deep sense in oneself. And we will also ask, what is our relationship with each other if it's not based on authority, which is the conventional thing? For there to be a relationship of authority between a person who is the only speaker in front of people who are listening. In a meditation retreat, the conventional, habitual way of relating is to authority, or from authority toward the others. And is there another way of relating? We will come to that after we've talked about listening and authority. I'm saying all of this as I go along. I've held retreats for many, many years and many first talks, but yet they're never the same. So, if the thought arises in the mind, oh, this talk about listening, I've heard it. I wish he'd finally choose a new topic for the first talk. Well, I've got news. It is new. I don't know yet what it's going to be. And what is always new is when there is listening, then everything is new. Usually when we listen to a talk or music, maybe a recital of poetry or music, I think all of us agree we love to hear the ones we already know. We don't mind some new ones. But it's wonderful to hear what we're acquainted with. This is like being home, and we can hum along with the words and melody. Maybe not audibly, but inwardly. Memory is in full swing, anticipating and also bringing in remembered emotions about the talk, the poems, or the music. This is all, whatever is being said here is not to give something to believe or to take for true, but to take as an interesting challenge to check out for oneself. In hearing music, one knows how much the memory plays along with knowing it and mobilizing the emotions. Remembered, but actually operating now. Memory also operates now. Memory doesn't operate yesterday, it operates now about something that was imprinted yesterday. an incident and all the emotions involved in it can be remembered now, and emotions be triggered anew with this memory. So very often our listening in our listening, memory plays a tremendous part. And wanting to hear what we already know. Wanting to be confirmed in what we already know. We all have opinions about a lot of things. We subscribe to theories and hypotheses about things. Political, religious, cosmological. The way things are, the way the economy is going, or the way the ecology is going. We have strong investment in these opinions and ideas about how things are. And very often we choose the talks we go to in terms of whether they will confirm and support our opinions. And we feel good when they do. We like to learn new things which are more support for our points of view. We say it was a good talk when we can agree with it. When we have more material now to remember and to use in case our opinions are being challenged. Can remember what she said and bring that as evidence or support for our own opinions. Also, all of us have areas in our thinking and experiencing from the past in which there has been pain or anger, disagreement. And we are afraid of hearing anything in support of what has made us angry or pained or disagreeing. We don't want to hear what does not support our own point of view, our own position, our own emotions and feelings. As the talk is proceeding, does one sort of test it out? Yeah, is this really so? Or do I go to a talk because I want to be challenged? I want to be woken up or rattled loose from my opinions. Does that happen very often? It does happen sometimes. Or even in spite of not wanting it, a talk does challenge what we're believing, and we take it seriously enough not just to battle back or to close up and not hear it at all, but to listen, we say, with a grain of salt, tentatively. To feel open enough to listen, not to agree and not to disagree, but to say, all right, it's an interesting way of putting it. I've never thought of it, and I don't have agreed to this before, but I will look at it afresh. That can also happen. And when this happens in talks here for the week, then we'll all be working together in a very energetic and energizing way, not taking as truth or, truth is enough to say, not taking as truth what is being said, not feeling that in order to be a good attender, a good treatant, one has to agree with what is being said. There's such strong conditioned tendencies in us to think we're good when we're agreeing. Because that's when our parents sort of laid off of us. Never didn't bother us when we were agreeing, didn't challenge us or get angry at us. And we have learned, some of us, the other half has learned to fight, or the other third, and the last third has learned to tune it all out, whatever's being said. Maybe we have a bit of all of that in us, not just one mode of being in the presence of hearing something that rattles at our foundations or disagrees with our opinions and points of view. So here we're suggesting the possibility of not agreeing, not disagreeing, and not tuning out. To hear and stay with it tentatively, wondering whether what is said, if it isn't self-evident at the instant of being said, and that's a fourth possibility or a fifth, that yes, this is so, not because I agree with you or because you confirm what I've always believed, but I see it, yes, this is so. And it happens to us human beings that suddenly, without expectation, we see what is so. But if that doesn't happen, then to not throw it out, not resist it, or not agree with it because Toni or XYZ is saying that. But to sort of hold it in the heart and mind, wondering, how is it really? And is it possible to observe this directly? And then, as the question has been raised and as is harbored in the body, we said the heart and mind, then we will observe things in the light of that question. Talk maybe about having images of oneself. Positive images, negative images. I'm good looking, I'm terrible looking. I'm not as clever or not as well liked as others. Others are more popular than I am. I'm the most popular one. No one is as good at this as I am. We have images like this, don't we? I'm just improvising, but each one must discover their own images, and maybe already has. But don't think you've done it for the rest of your life. There are always new ones. Every moment a new image can spring out of the ground like a mushroom on a moist, warm day. There it is, a new idea. I'm one who understands this stuff. And at the moment, it is suggested here, at the moment of clinging to this image, the listening recedes. This image making and image clinging and image emoting clouds over the clarity of perception now, this moment, because the body-mind is occupied with image maintenance or image milking, getting good feelings from thinking how good I am, how popular, how well-liked, and the opposite. How unpopular I am, how other people are so much more liked. And the mind bringing it up time and time again as a memory, the hurt that goes with it, and not being here now with people who may be very friendly inclined toward me. I don't see it because I'm stuck with the idea. No one likes me, or very few people. And I don't care about them anyways. And therefore, walking in a bubble of isolation or a prison of isolation, not always just as delicate as a bubble, which can easily be pricked by realization. I am not an image, and not knowing what I really am. So this was just given, not talking principally about image making right now, but given as an example of what is being talked about. If one never has seen image making in the process, or image clinging, image milking, if it's never been observed as it happens, then don't just take it as a truth about human beings and tell it to others. You're just making images. You have to come, or we have to come from seeing that stuff, from really being aware of it in an alive way, not just in a remembering and thinking way, not just in a regurgitating way, but to be able to look now. That's the most powerful way of speaking to each other, is out of looking now. And what may reveal itself is confusion. A lot of people say, I'm so confused, I can't look. But you see that you're confused, don't you? One can see that there's confusion of thinking it should be this way, but instead it's this way. But is it really this way? I don't know, because I can't label it properly. I can't verbalize it properly. All of this goes into the feeling I'm confused. But the fact that confusion is taking place can be seen. And not to deny it or accept it or tune it out, just to listen to the sound of confusion. And then one will be much more in touch with each other, because most of us are confused a good part or most of the time. We'll then be a community of confusion. Because you see, it can become an image. We're now the community of confusion. Never belonged to anything, but this one is attractive. Because it relieves me of my guilt, of my feeling that when I'm in this place I ought to be clear. Do we have that image? When I'm here I ought to be clear, attentive, aware. It's a dangerous image, like all images. Dangerous because with great potential to hide what is actually going on and clinging to the idea of oneself. For fear one may not be what one expects oneself to be, or what one expects others to expect of oneself, to be attentive. Could I say this? I can't talk about other people, but I do not watch people whether they're attentive or not. I don't watch people to see how they are. We are here together. Sometimes we see each other, we look up. But I'm not judging or evaluating or comparing. If that is a help to hear on the first day, in the first talk, a help in not feeling reinforced in one's image making, then so be it. So what is listening? What is open listening, not listening according to image, or what one likes, or what one is afraid of? It's always easier to say what all of these listenings are according to. Open listening isn't according to anything. It's just being there openly. And the birds are twittering. The rain is gently falling. Dripping on the roof. Someone is talking and someone is pausing. There's breathing going on, isn't there? Breathing in and out. Maybe one hasn't listened to it. It was there, but there wasn't awareness of it. It's there. shallowly, deeply, slowly, haltingly, puffingly, whichever way, there's breathing going on as the rain drips softly on roof and fields and trees. And someone is talking about listening without effort. Is it an effort to hear the rain drops? Is it an effort to hear, feel, see, experience the breathing? Was that an effort? It's there, isn't it? Simply there, as the breathing and the heartbeat, physical sensations are there. Sometimes people say, I'm so numb I feel nothing. I'm not so sure whether this is really so or whether it's just an idea one has formed about oneself and clinging to that so I don't have to listen because I tell myself I'm numb. But there's where the buttocks touches the chair or the cushion, there's some sensation there, isn't there? And the knees, wherever they're touching, the mat or the chair or the air, where the hands are touching the body or each other, which is also the body. There's some sensation there, isn't there? Nothing spectacular. Very, very simple, very subtle, very ordinary. Maybe that's why it's not felt. It is taken for granted that this is nothing to pay attention to. But in the body-mind opening up to listening of a spacious, simple kind, without expecting the spectacular, all of these subtle sensations, sounds, feelings come into view or into ear, whichever way the words can never quite describe open listening. And then someone talks about having the image of being a good listener or a poor listener, having the image of being a beginner or an experienced person. And is that image, how shall I put it? Is it transparent that there is image making and image clinging of how good one is at listening, for instance? It may be inaudible words that we speak to ourselves, not as clear as when we talk to each other in a meeting, but some talking or expressing of things and words goes on almost all of the time in this mind, about ourselves, about others, about our relationship with each other. Remembrances of how somebody treated us in a rough way or in a non-respectful way or in a very respectful way. And memory thought seeking out those experiences, going over and over them like over a record, a disc, a tape. And the emotions that go with it. If the record is or the tape is of an angry meeting with someone, how I was hurt, how he was so wrong in saying to me what he didn't listen to me. We say that, we re-experience this over and over, and our whole body responds with a mood. Which, when it happens and does not become transparently aware, then it affects our whole being, our relationship with each other, our listening to each other, our facial expressions, our voice, our breathing. to hear this being said now and watch it. Or let it come into awareness, because we are talking about it now, and maybe there is some degree of listening right now to all of this. Or maybe the mind has drifted away entirely. People tell me this. The first several days, I hear very little of the talk. Most of the time, the mind is adrift. Maybe day 4 or 5, I begin to hear more. And then people tell me, your talks begin to be good on day 4 or 5. I'm not saying that they're good in the beginning or then, but this phenomenon has interested me. Since people have told me how hard in the beginning it is to remain attentive to what is being said, I've wondered about that being a factor. Because when we hear something directly when we're there, it's a marvelous freeing thing. And someone will say, why have you never said that before? And maybe it's been said for 1,000 times, but it wasn't heard. And the moment it's heard, it's new and true. And a joy wells up at discovering what is actually going on in this human body mind and our relationship with ourselves and each other. So the question once more, is it possible for there to be a listening which is free of dislike or like, wanting to agree or wanting to hear, support? Tentatively listening and yet openly, not squirming. It's only possible if the resistance that may come up, or the squirming, or the voice of disagreement, or the voice, say some more, it feels so good, when all of that comes into awareness and therefore does not interfere with the listening. So it appears that listening is very complex, not just to hear what is being said, but what goes on in oneself. Agreement, disagreement, resistance, anger, wanting more, or tuning out. But it's not the listening that's complex, it's how we are that's complex. Listening is always simple. It just allows everything to happen. It doesn't resist a resistance. It illuminates it, clarifies it by shedding light on resistance. And resistance that is suddenly seen and felt directly as it's operating loses its hardness and power, because now there is seeing, awareness. It almost feels sometimes like an energy trade. Resistance giving up its energy to awareness. When it is discovered without blame or fault or condemnation or rationalization. Well, of course, I had to resist because, who can listen to this? We rationalize our modes and attitudes, which is another wonderful topic to investigate and to become aware of. Our rationalizations about ourselves and each other. It occurred to me years ago that when something was thought or remembered, an explanation for it came later, there was a rationalization. First the remembrance of what I did or what he did, and then sort of saying, yes, but it was because of such and such. And to see it, and wonder whether we have to rationalize anything. which rationalization meaning giving reasons ex post facto, after the fact, in order really just to preserve my image of myself or an image of someone I'm identified with. It's a wonderful thing to keep in mind and experiment with and investigate as it happens. Learn about it rather than become fixated in rationalizing or defending. And then as one watches the defending, the rationalizing, the clinging, the condemning, also hear the rain pouring. The coolness of the air, the light, physical sensations, without making anything out of anything. Just let it happen. Let it be, let it come, let it go, and remain at home in listening, openly, spaciously, always renewing. Because the listening was marred, was interrupted by image defense, rationalization, that can be seen in retrospect, because the memory is still there of this defense. I only did it because, and I didn't really do it, or whatever we all come up with, to pretend and preserve and protect our image, which we think we are. Because that's the greatest challenge, to find out what we really are, to challenge this clinging to imagery and ideas, which maybe until now we've never even seen are happening. Or if we have seen them, we're not at all sure whether this isn't really what we are, at least part of us, images. So what am I? With birds peeping, rain dripping, breath flowing, body sensing, vibrating with some kind of energy, heart beating. And is thought trying to answer the question? Then see that. Thought doing its habitual thing, trying to explain, describe, to know. And the seeming security that goes with explaining, describing, and knowing, having it there, handy, in writing or at least mentally in memory. And we're observing that process, not getting totally caught up in it, although it goes so quickly, to quickly explain, quickly give an answer, quickly defend, quickly rationalize, quickly produce another image, or try to give a reason. And this is how we live most of the time. It's open for inspection, to become aware of it in a simple, open, listening space of no judgment, no fault finding, no finding fault with either myself or you, just beginning to see how we are. And that can only happen when the fault-finding mode is in abeyance. As long as that's operating, it clouds and hides and smears or enhances. Mentally, emotionally and hides the actuality of this moment. What really happened? Not I'm at fault. I have to admit, I have to atone, confess. Anything but seeing what I'm really doing, what's really happening. And of that we are afraid. Why? Why does thought come so quickly to take over? Enormously ancient, strong, powerful habit, not just individual but collective, spanning the globe, thought trying to explain, to defend, of course, also to attack with blame, to sort of allow light to be shed on that without doing anything about it. Just to learn as a blaming is going on, blaming oneself, blaming others, and becoming aware of it. How the thoughts go, how the body feels and reacts, what the reaction to the blame is. More blame or withdrawal, anger, trying to invent something about the person I'm blaming, so I have a right to be angry at him or take revenge. All of this is open for seeing and discovering, and in that freeing oneself from it. Because the energy goes into attention and the beauty of the rain pouring on the roof and grasses, washing it all clean, allowing new growth to happen. So what is said in these talks is not done to exert, well, that's the right word, to exert authority, to build myself up, to tell you something that I know. I'm not coming from knowing, I'm coming from looking. And this looking can be shared. Everyone has the capacity to look at for longer or shorter periods, sometimes for a flash. And when that flash happens and there's the immediacy of insight, there's no difference, no spatial separation between us. I don't mean the space of measuring with a tape from here to where someone sits. That's there and measurable, but when you and I see at the same time together, there's no separation between us, and therefore no relationship of authority. Relationship of authority comes when image comes up. Oh, now I'm authority. Now I am an authority on this because I've seen something. Now I can talk with other authorities. That's image building and relating from image to image. But when that image is not there, then there's just simple talking, simple pointing out, and simple listening. And the simple presence of each other, even though we may be very complicated in our thinking and emoting and remembering. Somebody just recently said to me, I finally see that you're an ordinary human being like everyone else. What a relief that was, what a joy. For me too. I don't want to be adored or followed, parroted or defended out of idea, out of identification. Someone identified with someone who gives talks and then defending that person rather than saying, wait a minute, let's look. You say this isn't so. Well, let's all look, whoever's here and is interested, and begin to open it up rather than defend somebody or maintain that he or she is right. It's the beauty with this kind of work. We can always check it out, test it. Don't have to send it off to a laboratory in Texas or someplace. Wait till it comes back with their authority findings, or expert findings. I'm not picking on Texas. It was the case when my husband was in the hospital. What they called it, a frozen cut to examine whether something was malignant or not. And the doctors there said, no, it's not malignant, but we still need to send it to Texas. And then they never let us know. It had come back for a long time, and we were waiting, quite imbued with the authority of doctors, not to bother them, not to call unnecessarily. Although we had called, and several times they said, well, just wait, we haven't gotten it back yet. Of course, never even talked to the doctor. We talked to his secretary. Finally, after weeks bringing it up again, she looked up. Oh, she said, that came back long ago. You see, totally dependent in some of these health matters or other matters on experts. Can't do your own frozen section. Maybe one day you will, with a home computer, home sector. But here, we're not dependent on each other. If you say, it's helpful to me to hear you talk because it gives me something to look at, all right. But I'm not giving you something to buy or to believe or to trade or propagate without testing it. And if it's not clear, to hold it in the mind and heart. If it really intrigues one or fascinates one or stirs one, a question about image making or defending, blaming, if it stirs this body-mind, it will be kept as a live question. I know it from own experience. And then pop up at the right time when something like this happens, and there's the energy to see, yeah, this is exactly how it's going on. Then you can share it with others who are caught up in blaming themselves and feeling bad about themselves, whatever the case may be. So has that been clarified? That the relationship here need not in any way be one of authority. And to watch when authority images come up in coming to talk to Toni or listen to her, and become aware of the image so that awareness dissipates its disturbing interference. If image is seen and dissipated by awareness, then it's clear that our relationship is a friendly one. Not a threatening one or dominating one or submitting one. Or acquiescing one or whatever our habitual modes are of relating. They all can be looked at, learned from, learned about. In a sometimes abiding awareness. Sometimes awareness is very flashy, comes and goes, but it can also be abiding for a while with the energy of listening. If there's anything in a talk that's not clear, or that you do disagree with, you see it differently, please bring it up in individual meetings or group meetings. This kind of dialogue feeds the talk giving and the meeting process. Not to accept it, but to question, and question together. I may not have said something clearly, I may have said something wrong. I'm not infallible, omniscient, or any of this kind of stuff. Sometimes a different word comes out, one isn't aware. That wasn't the right word. So please feel free to question what is being said. To voice your different way of looking at it. I'm not resisting that, I'm welcoming it. We will end here for today.